Welcome back to the comma video series. This series is focusing on how to use commas for specific rules. So this video is going to focus on using commas after an introductory element. An introductory element can be made up of a word, phrases, or clauses. So let's look at a couple of examples. So in the first one, we have an example of a word being used in an introductory element. So the word is quickly. Now, typically with these introductions, it's going to tell us more information about the rest of the sentence. So for example, the comma is usually in the place where we know it's going to signify the complete sentence or the main concept here. So in this example, the firefighters rushed toward the burning building is we have a complete sentence. Anytime we use these introductory words, we should always have a complete sentence that follows after the comma. So in this example, we are telling how the firefighters rushed toward the door the burning building. And here we have the word quickly. Now, it's not always necessary to use these introductory elements, but when we do, we want to make sure that the comma is in the right place for formula purposes. The next one is an example of a phrase. So we have, in her book, the author uses relevant examples to make her points. So here we have our comma after the intro, and then we have the author uses relevant examples to make her points. And you can see here that this is a complete sentence. And so the first part should make sense. Where does the author use relevant examples? And then here we have in her book. So it tells us where that occurs. Now, with phrases can be inserted in all different spots within a sentence, but we're only going to highlight the phrases that come at the beginning of a sentence. And when they do, the comma is always necessary after. Finally, we have the clauses. These are called dependent clauses. We know that from keywords like because. Other keywords you want to look out for are words like since, even though. You have words like while. Look for those words that start sentences, or even when you're writing, if you're going to start a sentence with that, usually it's a good indication that you're going to need a comma after. Now, this can be a little tricky sometimes because people aren't sure where the comma goes because these clauses tend to be a little bit longer. So again, the tip is always make sure to check that what comes on the other side is a complete sentence. So in this case, we have Max wasn't selected as quarterback. Well, why wasn't he selected? Here we have the answer at the beginning, because he couldn't throw. Now, a good tip or strategy in comma placement is to turn it around. So if you are able to take this information and put it at the end here and make a complete sentence, then you know the comma is in the right spot. Let's go ahead and try to find comma placements in a couple of other examples. So in this sentence, we have, even though they were sick, the children decided to play at the park. Now, again, we want to look for some of those strategies. So look at the beginning, see what you're working with to determine if there is an introductory element there. Well, in this example, we have even though. Now, you want to finish the thought though, right? So even though what? So even though they were sick, okay, we have the children decided to play at the park. So using the rule that if we were to put the comma here, right, technically we should have a complete sentence after. So let's go ahead and check that out. We have the children decided to play at the park. So in this example, we have a complete sentence. And then at the beginning, it tells us why, or, despite. So let's do the quick check. Could we move this to the end of the sentence? We could say the children decided to play at the park even though they were sick. Yes, we can. So we know that the comma is in the right spot. Let's look at another. While I was eating, I received a phone notification. So here, again, we have another keyword. The word while is a pretty good indication. And then as you can see here, we need to put the comma after. So while I was eating, I received a phone notification. So here we have our complete sentence. I received a phone notification. And then this tells us and answers the question of when that occurred. So again, it gives us added information. Next, we have, in addition, journalists should no longer photograph celebrities' children. So this one's a longer sentence and could be a little bit confusing. If you hear it, then you know, but we don't also want to rely on the way something sounds. So here we have the word in, okay? And usually words like prepositions, right, are a good indication that you have an intro phrase. So the in addition part, putting the comma here, is telling us, moreover or additionally or some version of that. And we have, journalists should no longer photograph celebrities' children. So in this example, we probably mentioned a comment before this sentence, but here we have a complete sentence. Journalists should no longer photograph celebrities' children. So what does this tell us? That means that we probably stated something before, and, reasons why journalists should no longer, photograph anything or do something. And so we're adding that info there. And finally, the little baby fell asleep. Okay. So in this example here, we have the word finally, and this is an intro phrase as well, but let's double check. So if we put a comma here, the little baby fell asleep, we have our complete sentence, right? And so it's telling us finally, or giving us the tone or attitude from the writer, right? So it's giving us more information about this one. So your final tips when you're looking at introductory elements, look for some of those key words at the beginning, and want to look to make sure that you're putting the comma in the right spot. And to check that is to always look to see if there's a complete sentence on the other side of the comma for introductory elements.